और इस वक्त की बड़ी खबर से आपको रूबरू करा दें। जॉन केरी ने कहा है सबका साथ सबका विकास, जो नारा था मोदी सरकार का, उसकी उन्होंने तारीफ की है। अमेरिकी विदेश मंत्री जॉन केरी इस वक्त भारतीय दौरे पर हैं और सुषमा स्वराज के साथ उन्होंने साझा प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की, जिसमें कई मुद्दों पर अहम बातचीत हुई। आपको बता दें कि भारत आने से पहले भी जॉन केरी ने मोदी की जमकर प्रशंसा की थी। सबका साथ सबका विकास नारे की तारीफ की थी और इसे उन्होंने अपने अभिभाषण में हिंदी में कहा था। अमेरिकी विदेश मंत्री ने मोदी की तारीफ की थी और ये कहा था कि वो भारत जब आएंगे तब कई अहम मुद्दों पर बातचीत होगी और ऐसा ही हुआ है। जब वो भारत पहुंचे हैं तब सुषमा स्वराज से मुलाकात हुई है और उनके साथ साझा प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भी हुई है।
That we all have a lot of homework to do coming out of this meeting. Many bilateral initiatives that will continue, but clearly an importance to put specifics on the table for the trip of Prime Minister Modi to Washington in September to meet with President Obama. I think we share a clear understanding of where we can begin. The new government's plan for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, together with all development for all, is a concept and a vision that is not unlike that expressed by President Obama, and it is one that we support wholeheartedly. And I talked about those values. We cooperate significantly on many different issues in the region: counterterrorism, Afghanistan, non-proliferation. India has been a significant, responsible steward of nuclear power, and those are things which we respect and obviously work with very closely. So there are a great deal of interests that tie us together, and we all acknowledge that there have been ups and downs in the relationship for some period of years, but much more ups and much more involvement over the past 10 and 15 years. And that's why I said we see this as such a ripe moment. Prime Minister Modi has clearly made it a prime objective to deal with the question of jobs, the question of reform, of providing efficiency and decisions and other kinds of things. He wants the market to be more accessible. They're considering different things that they need to share with you, but we're impressed by the breadth of their thoughts about the economic changes that are possible, and we certainly want to see those implemented. And we'll wait to see. The proof is always in the pudding, obviously. With respect to Gaza, we've never stopped working towards the notion that a ceasefire at some point is essential. Even today, I've been on the telephone on the plane flying over here. We've been continuing discussions. And yes, the United States remains hopeful that it is achievable. And sooner is better because of the needs to get to the table and begin a negotiation that can ultimately, hopefully, resolve issues. There's no promise in that. I want to make that clear. No promise in that. But I think everybody would feel better if there was a bona fide effort to try to see that happen.
The next question is from Lara Jakes of AP.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, a moment ago you spoke about barriers to trade. I'm wondering if you can update us on whether there is an agreement with India for keeping food subsidies as part of the WTO trade deal. I also wanted to ask you whether the U.S. has asked India to follow the spirit of the sanctions against Russia, given India's years of purchasing Russian arms. And, Madam Minister, has there been any shift in that long-time Indian policy, especially now with the shoot down of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17? Thank you.
You have asked 3 questions in a row. To your first question, Consultations are underway in Geneva. Let us wait for the final outcome. Your second question, there is no change in our policy because we think that the foreign policy is in continuity. Foreign policy does not change with a change in government.
Well, we obviously, I think there's a meeting, I'm not sure when. Have they already met in Geneva?
They've already met.
They already did. They already met. They're meeting now. I thought so. Right around now.
Are going.
Our feeling is obviously that the agreement that was reached in Bali is an agreement that importantly can provide for food security for India. We do not dismiss the concerns India has about large numbers of poor people who require some sort of food assurance and subsistence level. But we believe there's a way to provide for that that keeps faith with the WTO Bali agreement. And so we are obviously encouraging our friends in India to try to find a path here where there is a compromise that meets both needs. And we think that's achievable. And we hope it's achievable. With respect to the issue of the sanctions, the focus of our meetings here today is bilateral fundamentally, and the ways the US and India can grow the relationship with respect to trade, clean energy cooperation, counterterrorism, science, technology, and so forth. Now, we would obviously welcome India joining in with us with respect to that, but it's up to them. It's India's choice. India has its relationships. We'd support and welcome them in dealing with the challenge that Russia is presenting, but it's really up to India. It's not something that entered into the bilateral relationship in the context of today's discussion.
Last question, Rajiv Sharma from the First Post.
Thank you, Akbar. My question is to both Mrs. Swaraj and Mr. Kerry. Sushma ji, what is India's view on Senate Bill 744? Whether this issue was discussed with Mr. Kerry by you, and what is his assurance, if any? And the question to Mr. Kerry is, don't you think that this 744 is rather a protectionist measure, and even American companies are seeing it as a protectionist measure? Is there a move to amend it or dilute it? Thank you.
Let me first answer. Yes, I raised the issue with Secretary Kerry about the bill number 744. And our Minister of Commerce, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, also raised this issue in the plenary session. I told Secretary Kerry that we are not against the bill per se. Immigration is your internal matter. But we are certainly concerned with the provisions which will affect the Indian IT industry if the bill is passed in the present form. And I also told Secretary Kerry that it will give a very negative signal, and that too at a time when India is opening up its economy for the foreign players. Thank you.
So I'm gonna confess something to you that I probably shouldn't confess to you, but when I was in the United States Senate for 29 years, I never identified a bill by its number. It was the immigration bill, or it was the something bill. So thank God the minister knew that that was the number tonight.
Yes, that was the bill.
We did talk about the immigration bill, and it's a critical priority for President Obama, and we are very aware of the need to make sure that there are more people able to travel, more people able to become part of the commerce that we just talked about, all of these areas, including education and so forth. But the way it left the Senate leaves that in need of some amending. The House has not taken it up yet, and it really appears as if it won't, certainly before the election, which is in 3 months. The administration, President Obama, would support some changes that will deal with some of the issues that you've just raised and other issues. But at the moment, it does not appear as if this bill, it will not move in the next several months. One has to hope that after the election is over, there may be the possibility of rebuilding support for it. It's a critical bill for us in many, many ways, way beyond those that you just articulated. And President Obama would really like to see it done as a matter of fairness, as a matter of morality, as a matter of commercial and business interest, as a matter of family interest. There are many compelling reasons for why this needs to pass, and I'm confident that it's...
साझा प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस जिसमें सुषमा स्वराज और जॉन केरी दोनों मौजूद। केरी ने भारत की चिंता को जायज ठहराया है, भारत की चिंता को जायज ठहराया है, जासूसी का विरोध किया। दरअसल भारत ने इस बैठक में, ये सुषमा स्वराज ने इस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में कहा है, जासूसी का मुद्दा उठा, जासूसी का मुद्दा उठा यानी महत्वपूर्ण है, क्योंकि बीजेपी की ही नेताओं की जासूसी का मुद्दा था और केरी ने भारत की इस चिंता को जायज ठहराया है। इसके साथ ही सबका साथ सबका विकास, इस मुद्दे का भी जिक्र किया, इस नारे का एक बार फिर से जॉन केरी ने जिक्र किया और कम से कम इस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस और इस बातचीत के जरिए आगे की राह पर बढ़ता हुआ हिंदुस्तान और अमेरिका। आइए सबसे पहले आपको सुनाते हैं, जासूसी का मुद्दा जब उठाया गया और सवाल पूछा गया तो क्या कहा सुषमा स्वराज ने।
मैंने बिल्कुल ये इशू रेज किया सेक्रेटरी कैरी के साथ और मैंने उन्हें ये भी बताया कि जब ये खबर भारत के अखबारों में छपी थी तो भारत के लोगों में बहुत गुस्सा आया था और उन्होंने अपना रोष व्यक्त भी किया था। मैं उसी रोष से आपको अवगत कराना चाहती हूँ और मैंने ये भी कहा उन्हें कि हम दोनों एक दूसरे को मित्र देश मानते हैं, तो एक मित्र देश दूसरे की जासूसी करे ये किसी भी तरह से हमें स्वीकार्य नहीं है। दिस इज़ अनएक्सेप्टेबल टू अस।
तो साफ शब्दों में विरोध दर्ज किया इस मुद्दे पर, जासूसी के मुद्दे पर विदेश मंत्री सुषमा स्वराज ने। उन्होंने बताया कि हिंदुस्तान में जब यह खबर आई थी तब भी लोगों का गुस्सा दिखा था। 2 मित्र देश हैं हम और 2 मित्र देशों के बीच ऐसी बात नहीं होनी चाहिए।
We have a policy in the United States that with respect to intelligence matters, we do not discuss intelligent matters in public. But let me just say very clearly, we value our relationship with India, our bilateral relationship, in all the ways that I just described. And we also value the sharing of information between each other regarding counterterrorism and other threats to both of our countries. We've had conversations, as the minister has stated, with government officials about these reports, and usually we try to have our intelligence communities work to resolve any questions or any differences that may exist. But let me say this. President Obama has undertaken a unique and unprecedented review that he ordered of all of our intelligence and intelligence gathering and activities. And unlike any prior president, he has put out a memorandum clearly articulating, he gave a speech in which he clearly articulated America's approach going forward and the standards that we will apply. We will continue to work actively with India wherever we see a threat to our shared interests, and we fully respect and understand the feelings expressed by the minister.
अपने देश की जमीन में भी बोला और जॉन केरी ने हिंदुस्तान पहुंच के भी बोला नरेंद्र मोदी का नारा, सबका साथ सबका विकास। सुनिए।
That we all have a lot of homework to do coming out of this meeting. Many bilateral initiatives that will continue, but clearly an importance to put specifics on the table for the trip of Prime Minister Modi to Washington in September to meet with President Obama. I think we share a clear understanding of where we can begin. The new government's plan for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, together with all development for all, is a concept and a vision that is not unlike that expressed by President Obama, and it is one that we support wholeheartedly.
सबका साथ सबका विकास, नरेंद्र मोदी का यह नारा अमेरिका को बहुत पसंद आ गया है। जॉन केरी की बातों से भी झलक रहा है। खासतौर पर इस नारे का जिक्र उन्होंने पहले भी किया अमेरिका में और फिर हिंदुस्तान आकर। सीधे रुख करते हैं, बालकृष्ण हमारे सहयोगी हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। जासूसी के मामले पर भी बालकृष्ण, कहा यह सुषमा स्वराज ने कि हमने मुद्दा उठाया और कहा दो मित्र देशों के बीच में अविश्वास नहीं होना चाहिए और इस तरह से कम जासूसी बिल्कुल बर्दाश्त नहीं की जाएगी। कुल मिलाकर कुछ कदम आगे बढ़े भारत और अमेरिकी रिश्तों में। हम
देखिए अंजना, ये बात बिल्कुल साफ है। इस बात को हम समझ सकते हैं कि जॉन केरी की जो ये यात्रा है, भारत की ये जो यात्रा है, इससे बहुत ज्यादा कुछ निकलने की उम्मीद नहीं है। इस यात्रा का सबसे बड़ा मकसद यही है कि अगले महीने जो सितंबर में जो नरेंद्र मोदी जाएंगे अमेरिका, उसके लिए बेहतर माहौल तैयार करना, उसके लिए एक ऐसा माहौल बनाना जिससे कुछ सकारात्मक हो सके। और अमेरिका ने उस मुलाकात से, उस मीटिंग से बहुत उम्मीदें लगा रखी हैं और जॉन केरी के लिए ये जरूरी है कि उस मुलाकात से पहले वो इसके लिए जमीन तैयार करें। और इसमें सबसे बड़ी जो अड़चन है, जैसा कि आपने सुना कि भारत में सुषमा स्वराज ने कहा कि इसको लेकर के, स्नूपिंग को लेकर के, जासूसी को लेकर के भारत में नाराजगी है। इस नाराजगी को उन्होंने व्यक्त भी किया और खासतौर पे बीजेपी के लिए ये भी जरूरी है, भारत सरकार के लिए, क्योंकि खुद बीजेपी पार्टी खासतौर पे इसकी शिकार हुई थी। आपने सुना कि सुषमा स्वराज ने इस नाराजगी को सरेआम जताया और जॉन केरी ने इस बात को स्वीकार किया कि जो चिंता है भारत की, उसको इत्तेफाक रखते हैं और अमेरिका इस दिशा में कदम उठा रहा है कि जो चिंता है इस तरह की सिर्फ भारत की नहीं।